Okay, once again, everybody, thank you so much for joining in. A very good afternoon to all our attendees here today. My name is Shruti Sundaresan, and on behalf of the Rohini Nilekani Philanthropies, I'd like to welcome you all to this session this afternoon. We're very, very excited about it, and it's so nice to see so many attendees in a webinar room. We all think that post-COVID webinars have become really redundant, but for the informative, the really important stuff, we all do show up, and that's really nice to see here as well. I'm sure all of you are keeping really busy with the new financial year has begun, and people are obviously extremely busy. However, we do know that along with the start of the financial year, there's a lot of energy coming in. I'm sure all of your organizations are involved in annual reports and new programs with new funding cycles and recruitment drives. But at the end of the day, we all know that behind all of this, there is this critical responsibility of navigating finance, compliance, legal and regulatory processes that truly form the backbone of the kind of work that we are doing in the social sector here today. And to offer some support through this very exciting but also difficult and busy period, we have put together this webinar, which is Finance, Compliance, and Legal Essentials for CSOs for 2025. This session will be led by experts from the Saathi Development Services. We have Sharad. From aikyam Fellows, we have Shamir, and from Pacta, we have Nivedita, who will be walking us through different aspects of finance, legal, and compliance regulations. And I can assure you that this session is going to be incredibly helpful for everybody. I would really request you to stay put till the end of the entire conversation, because we have some time for question and answers. So please do stay put. But at the same time, if you're not able to, don't worry, because we'll also be sending you a recording of this session. And with that, I'd like to invite Shamir. The stage is all yours. Please take this conversation forward.
Hello, everyone. Thanks, Shruti, for that introduction. Hi, everyone. Thank you for making time. And we're so excited to have you all here. My name is Shamir, and I'll be walking you through because we knew that 50% of you haven't heard about PATTIC. So we thought we'll give you a quick brief intro on why we all started and what is this alliance? Are we registered as a nonprofit? And small questions that you might have. We'll just tell you the story of where we have reached, how we reached where we are today, to just kind of tell you about the different platform features and everything. I'll start by sharing uh, uh, my screen. And one of the things that all of us remember is we go, I'm sure you've gone to a lot of sessions like Bodhan and other training classes, and we get this amazing content all the time, right? So there is so much training content. At the end of it, it's either a long video that gets shared, or it will be with all those important information that was there. It might be like a PPT, PowerPoint presentation. And soon we'll have a bunch of PowerPoint presentations and videos, which we generally don't open after the course is over, though it has a lot of valuable content. And we realized, as Sharad, Suresh and I were working at that time, we realized that one of the challenges is all this training content, especially important details about compliance governance, as important as it is, and it's not very accessible to the people who are at the front line with their ledgers and the books and everything, right? So we wanted to make all this content more accessible to them, whether it was language, whether it was easy to access, searchable. That's how the journey started. We didn't have any other goal at that time. And the first thing we put up is basically just we thought, it'll be so nice to have an online library of all these different training materials, especially people like Sharad from Saathi Development or Nivedita from Pacta, who are like, hey, we have good content. Please use it. They're sharing warmly and freely, and we thought, then what are we waiting for, right? So we started taking content like that and putting this like an online bookshelf for you, which is available at library.pattic. We'll be sharing all the links with you for this. And we just started curating it in a way, as you can see, so that all this information is easily searchable for you, that you can search something that you might be looking for in a and jump to it immediately. Or if you want, let's say you're working in a different state where the language is, let's say everybody's comfortable with Marathi, right? So you can just go here, pick the language as Marathi, and automatically all the content will change on the fly for you. So you don't even have to copy paste here and there, because this is the Google Translate level translation for you. So this was one way in which we thought, okay, let's now, can we make all our content accessible to different people? The same content, as you can see, the base content is not changing. So that's how our journey started. So right now, the first resource that you will have is an online library, which is hand curated by Sharad, Nivedita, Pooja from our team, Shruti, Suresh. All of us have put our hands in there just to craft the best possible document for you, so that you can get your content and details from this. So that's the first tool that you have. While we were doing this, we also realized that, let's say we are talking about risk and control. Sharad, Suresh, and Shruti said, Shamir, it will be nice if we can create an FAQ for them, because sometimes in this abundance of knowledge, sometimes we don't know what question to ask, right? Like we land up on nowadays with ChatGPT. You sit in front of ChatGPT. I'm so scared now, because I can now ask any question I want, but I don't know what question to ask. So the team, we also realized that, and we started putting together these FAQs, which will, if you have the time to read through the whole course, that's always there here, including a podcast, the video, the content. But if you wish to just go through the FAQs, you can just go through the FAQ sections. And Sharad, Suresh, and Shruti have carefully created Q&A also for you. All right. So I can't say this can be a weekend light read or something, but at least for you to find, just quickly go through the FAQs, especially for a new team member, or go back to something. The libraries, each book has has the actual book, the course content that is there. You can see, and you can navigate quickly on the left-hand side. And each one also has detailed FAQs. Some have like really long FAQs which have been carefully curated. So that's something to keep in mind. An online library for people who are working on compliance regulation, contributed by people like Saathi, Pacta, and others, including us and RNP, curated, handcrafted, so that you can find the information that is needed. We keep updating it with the latest. Every 2-3 months, we look at the books and we keep updating it. So that's on the library. As we started doing the library, we realized that day-to-day problem solving does not happen like that. It's not a course-related problem solving. We always have a question to ask. Achanak ek question aata hai, and you'll have your friend that you call, and usually the same question is being asked by 100 people to 200 different people, out of which 50 are getting answered and 25 are actually implementing the answer. So we wanted to take this away from these silo conversations and bring it out into the open, because the main thing that we wanted to be is a community. That's why we call ourselves an alliance. So it's individuals coming together, sharing warmly and freely. So what the next step that happened is, okay, let's create a forum where people can freely ask questions that they have. So you can see here at our forum, some of you might have already been here and visited. I've asked questions maybe. But here is a place where you can just search for something. Let's say I'm looking for policy documents, if it is there or not, right? So let's say I'm using the search here. I want to look at policy in all topics and posts. So it will automatically pick all the things that are under policy, and I can go inside and look at it, right? Or I can ask a new question by just saying that I have a new topic to ask. That's it, right? There are other ways to ask the question also, but the most fun way to right now ask a question is sign up to the free account, and you can just say a new topic and ask your question, just like you'll send an email. You can just ask your question as well. There are other ways also to ask a question that I'll show you, but this is the most fun way. As soon as you ask a question, what happens is it comes to Sharat and others who are part of our ecosystem. Right now, Sharat kind of holds fort, goes through each one of your questions one by one carefully. There is no AI at this stage. That I think you all can do yourself, but we wanted, even if it is AI curated, it has to be vetted by human, especially in this high risk work, right? So then you can see that then answers are given, and generally the community has been super helpful. Very, you can say, sharing warmly and freely with their information. And at some points, you can say Sharath is even sharing his personal number. So that's how much, just to show Sharath's work. And if you look at his profile, you can see the number of questions that Sharath himself has answered, right? So the idea is to create is to continue to nurture this as a community where all of you will have a membership. It's all free. You can have an anonymous name also, does not matter. Sometimes you don't want to share, like there is no Aadhaar card attestation required, so you can just put whatever name you're comfortable with. The main thing is to ask for help and learn to ask for help, right? That's the whole thing. So here you will have all of those Q&A and questions that you can ask here. As we did these two became like very key things for us that people are asking for. They need access to all the library and courses, and they need to join these forums. In the website also, you can go to ask a question and just drop the question here. Again, we just take your email address so that we can reply to you, not to publish it publicly, unless you want us to. But on a daily basis, we make sure that the forum that you saw here, the library, on a weekly basis, we keep updating. This PATTIC.org, as you can see, the idea is that it is a people's alliance, people being all of us here in the room. It's an alliance to make trust and transparency more accessible to CSOs. The idea is not that we want to help NGOs. It's more like, hey, trust and transparency seems to be getting so complicated. We want to make that more accessible to grassroots NGOs, especially grassroots NGOs. So PATTIC is around that. It's as we grow, we'll probably have more members who come in and share their inputs, knowledge, questions with all of us. So one way to access the site is just remember pattic.org, pattic.org. If you are not already a member, you can just click on the membership link here. You'll get free weekly updates from us, especially of the latest conversations, because you might have missed it. We don't send out any spam. Twice a week, we send out hand-curated newsletters, not AI generated, so that you can keep a look at, oh, what did I miss, including some cool things like compliance calendars and things like that, right? So these are important links that are there across all these things. You can just go to pattic.org, and every day almost we refresh like a newspaper. What we do is we just refresh and keep this up to date, right? So any point of time, every 2 days, if you come to the site, you will see the new links are there, everything, the fresh links are on top for you. Again, just to make this more, we don't want you to worry that, hey, did I miss something? Am I missing something that is super important, right? So all of the courses, important things from the FAQs. We also have some podcasts that have been generated with AI. Right now, it's all in English, but now that AI is also getting better, we'll also start getting podcasts in Hindi soon. So we are looking for Hindi and other regional languages, again, to make it more accessible, all this content, how to make it more accessible to people. Finally, one of the things to remember is you can join us, you can follow us on LinkedIn, and do join us on WhatsApp. The link is on the bottom. So here you can just join the channel if you're more comfortable with also getting updates on WhatsApp. You can just click on the WhatsApp channel, and that's also a place where you can, that WhatsApp number can also be used to ask questions. to us. Suddenly you have a question, you can just send a question to us. We kind of look at it every 24 hours and transfer your questions to the forum and also revert back to you. So we are trying everything right now. We are not restricting you by restricting any one of us saying we can only ask questions like this. All these options are available. But learning to ask for help is also a big skill that we want to kind of promote as a value we want to promote in the platform. That, if you need some help, do ask for it. And forum, WhatsApp are all channels for you to ask it. One tool that you might have already seen if you already know PATTIC is the compliance calendar. You can just click on it in the footer. You can see once you scroll down on the bottom, you will see the compliance calendar. So here again, Sharad has kind of curated in each month what are the different dates that you should remember. You can just navigate it through this. You can bookmark this, share with your friends. And if you're someone a little bit more savvy, likes to play with Google Calendar, you can just add this as a calendar on, like you have your holiday calendar. You can just add this entire thing as a calendar to your calendar. And it will just show all those dates. Google will remember to update you about all those dates. So this is something for you to keep on top of all these filings and everything, right? So just to kind of, the link that you have to remember is pattic.org. Here you will find all the ways for you to, if you're missed out on the newsletters, all the newsletters that we are sending out to our friends and partners, all of them is also available here. So don't worry if you joined late. You can just go in here and look at the previous newsletters and quickly, don't forget to become a member here by clicking on membership. Right. Forum, you can click here or go to the forum. It will take you to the forum links and all the discussions can be seen there properly, right? And books library, you have all the library link books. We have curated a few for you, but you can just go and look at the entire library like we were showing you, right? So I'll pause here. We'll have a section for Q&A in the end. So if there are any questions about accessing the platforms, if you're finding any trouble in it, I'm happy to. Thank you so much, folks. I'll now invite Sharad to. Sharad?
Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope my presentation is visible. Thank you, Shamir, and
Sorry, Sharad, I think your audio is, there's some issue with your audio. Sharad, if you can hear us, we really can't hear your audio. Your presentation is visible, but we can't hear you at all.
I think he got disconnected. Maybe he'll
Yeah.
reconnect now, so should be fine.
Yeah, just in the meantime, if I could just share with the entire audience here, I think there was a lot of different ways for you to connect with PATTIC, which is, of course, absolutely free to join. Just wanted to also keep that, share that information with you. At this point of time, like Shamir mentioned, if you'd like to take updates through the newsletter, if you want to join the discussion forum, if you want to take updates via LinkedIn or WhatsApp, or add the calendar to your work calendar, there are multiple ways in which you can engage with PATTIC. And just wanted to sort of reiterate that this is a work in progress platform. We really are very keen for the community to be a part of this and help us make it better. And we're very, very keen to take all of your inputs, and please do share ideas with us about how you think this community can be bettered. So we are not looking at this as just a platform. For us, this is a shared effort. It's about creating and developing this community of finance and compliance practitioners in the social sector. And we do know that, and we acknowledge the fact that, when program teams or communication teams or top leadership do have lots of opportunities to meet each other and learn from each other, that's not often the case with finance, compliance, admin, legal professionals. So, we're cognizant of the lack of opportunities, and this is one step towards addressing that gap. We're very keen to foster this community online. It is online right now, and hopefully we'll get to a place where we can really build on this forum. So do engage with us, and if you do have inputs on how we can improve this forum or how you would like to contribute to this forum, please write to Shamir. Shamir, if you could please drop PATTIC's email ID in the chat, or your email ID, whatever you prefer. Do engage with us and share your inputs on how you would like to see this platform develop. Very keen for it to be community led. And I think Sharad has joined. So Sharad, over to you.
Sorry, I'm extremely sorry for the glitch. Continuing with where Suresh Shamir left, let me just say that please make use of the forum for asking questions. Please refer to the forum in terms of changes that are happening. Okay. So with that, let me just take you through my topic, which actually talks about compliance challenges, okay, and the key challenges in 2025, the year that we are running. So I've just done a quite a kind of a summary for all of you. Now, we know the challenges around compliances, and some of the key challenges around compliances today for the not-for-profits is something like this. There is a continuous churning that's happening in the regulatory landscape. Now, this change or churning is not only very quickly happening, but it is also very complex. So there is an additional element of complexity to the regulatory changes that are happening. So it's very important for us to be able to understand, not only be aware, but also to understand the nitty-gritties of these regulatory changes that are happening in the landscape. The related point is in terms of burden of compliance. So as you have regulatory changes, as you have the more complexity in terms of regulations and statutes, you also have compliance burden, which is in terms of detailing also going up. So for instance, things like the FC4, things like the 10B and the 10BB, all of them have become like, huge documents for us to report. Now, I will not get into the background as to why this kind of an increased burden of compliance, what I call as compliance fatigue, is the reasons for that. But we know that the reality is that we have increased burden of compliance. I was looking at the compliance calendar on a monthly basis, and I was seeing that at least 7 odd days in a month, on average, go towards some compliance or the other. And therefore, the compliance calendar is compliances per se, therefore, deserves so much more attention, given the fact that 1/3 of our total work month in a month is actually dedicated to some compliance or the other. In some months, it's even more, some it's less. So the burden of compliance has, and the extent of detailing in terms of those compliance has also increased. The third is digitization, technology, and no face-to-face interface. This is again a challenge. Digitization for small NGOs becomes a challenge. Use of technology, all regulatory compliances as well as reporting compliances in terms of the regular reporting are all technology driven today, and there is no face-to-face interface as far as understanding the requirements, understanding how to comply. There is no such thing. So that in fact is itself becoming a very big challenge, because there's no person to go to, as was the case maybe 5 years back or maybe 10 years back. So technology, while it is also facilitating the digitization and technology for small not-for-profits, is becoming a challenge as well. The next one is penalties. Now, the way compliance, non-compliance is being looked at is not with any kind of leniency. The penalties are very, very high. So That's another challenge of compliance. So understanding compliance, doing the compliance, and ensuring that the compliance is done correctly is what is the real challenge. Okay, because the other side, the flip side of non-compliance, entails not only penalties but also some kind of existential risk that I look at. The next one is capacities. So organizations which look at institutional matters do lack internal capacity. And therefore, the PATTIC is probably one big resource that's available freely for you, where this capacity can be beefed up. So the internal capacity on institutional matters itself becomes a challenge because the complexity is increasing. Unless we match up to the complexity in terms of our own awareness, knowledge, and ability to deliver, we will not be able to, the demand side and the supply side kind of equilibrium will not happen. That is what I want to also say. Then the last one is governance. Now, we have been very long used to very loose governance structures in not-for-profits. That needs to be kind of, fixed, because governance structures now need to look at, the organization in terms of a higher level of understanding of regulations as well as compliance. So these are all related issues in terms of challenges around compliance, and these challenges are going to increase. And that is why I say compliance is a big risk for organization. I mean, it's negatively a negative connotation. I don't want to create a sense of fear, but I want to create a sense of urgency for you. And I think the effort at PATTIC is primarily to help you be your friend, be your companion in terms of being able to help you. There is a lot of knowledge and resources that are available, and they are being added more and more. Now, coming to what are the preparations for these compliances in 2025, I have put down a couple of them. The most important one that is going to happen very soon is, of course, your renewal of 12A and registration and your ATG approval. This is the backbone of any not-for-profit organization. I consider these registrations as the topmost registrations to have, without which the distinction between charitable and and for-profit just disappears. So the first and foremost thing that you please remember is that for most organizations that got a 5-year registration or approval under 12A and ATG, this is the biggest, kind of event, I would say. I would call it a challenge. I will call it an event for the not-for-profits for 2025. Now, your registrations and approvals would be valid up to 31st March 2026. Please remember that's uh, 2026 of March. However, you have to file for renewal of your 12A and ATG 6 months prior to the date of your registration. You all know that your registrations are now for a finite time period, which is 5 years in most cases where already existing registered organizations went in for re-registrations. Now, this entire 12A and 80G area has also become a very complex one because there have been a lot of clarifications, a lot of changes, a lot of condonations, and one needs to see the 12A and 80G registration certificate to be able to see what needs to be done. I'm talking of a general situation where all registered entities as on 1st April 2021 have got 5 years of their certification. Now, 10AB is the form that you need to file by 30th of September 2025. Now, some of the organizations that I talk to, they say it's our assessment year 26-27, and therefore it's only after 31st March that we need to get back. No, you need to apply 6 months, which means there is hardly any time left for you to, prepare yourself. The form 10AB is the form that you would need to file separately for 12A renewal and ATG approval renewal. Okay. You would also need to ensure that all documentation, all required paperwork for the 10AB is in place much before that, because this 10AB, as per our current understanding, will be taken up and after a due process of inquiry by the CIT exemption, will the renewal be granted, just like FCRA. Okay. Now, at the same time, I would hurriedly say that, well, since this is the first renewal after the re-registrations, and for the department to handle so many renewals with the process of inquiry, we will have to see what is the level of process of inquiry. However, for us, the 10AB filing and getting our 12A registration and renewal in time is very, very critical. How? Because this makes us a charitable or a not non-charitable entity. And donors and other stakeholders would look at this renewal at the quickest, just to ensure that they do not have any kind of uncertainty about their funding. Now, please also remember that that subsequently small NGOs whose turnover is up to 5 crores in the past 2 years, that is 23, 24, and 24, 25, will get their registrations and approvals for 10 years. Others will get it for 5 years. Now, intermediate period registrations that have happened or provisional registrations that have happened, I'm not capturing them. However, you have to be very mindful where you have got provisional registrations or you have had any corrections to be made because there were wrong filings. This is the normal situation of 5-year registrations that were granted in 2021. Now, the second biggest challenge that I look at even more than FCRA or any other portal is basically the income tax and TDS. You know, why I'm saying that is because I think a lot of the renewal business will also be linked to what is the kind of status of proceedings on your income tax portal as well as on traces. Now, we have to give due uh, importance to addressing these, outstanding matters timely. Because I again want to say that the 12AB and 12A and ATG renewals may hinge on our being clear as far as these income tax and traces portal is concerned. So please have a look at what are the proceedings. I know of a large number of organizations where there have been mistakes in filing, mistakes in terms of computation, and demands have been raised, and demands have not been settled for years and years. I would only like to kind of caution that what view the department takes at the time of evaluating your 10AB is something that is unpredictable. So if there is still a window open for you in terms of seeing how to address those issues prior to your 10AB being considered for renewal. The third one is, of course, FCRA. Now, as far as FCRA is concerned, in terms of reporting, the FC4 is becoming even more complex. Okay, so in terms of reporting on assets, in terms of detailing the various assets, project-wise assets that you have detailed, in addition to reporting expenditure and in incomes on by project, you have to also report the asset bit of it. More important than the FC4 itself for you is the kind of role that the chartered accountant now plays. In fact, the FC4 is becoming more a challenge for your chartered accountant because he now needs to give details of expenditure by projects. He needs to also give, a kind of a certification saying that this is true and fair. The certificate itself has changed. So what I'm trying to say is that when the stat auditor or your CA actually is doing a FC audit, then probably a higher amount of due diligence will now onwards be done by that auditor, and you should be prepared with your audited financials for FCRA more, because it's in a way telling the MHA that I have done just like the 10B and 10BB. It's stating that the audited accounts give a fair and true picture of the organization's financials. So to that extent, that thing has that requirement for the chartered accountant will actually entail higher amount of kind of due diligence by them. So you have to be very careful. Now, as far as new entities are concerned who have not obtained registrations or uh, prior permissions, the application process also have got rationalized, which means a lot of extra information now is to be provided, not just for prior permission, but also for the first time registration that will happen. So recently also there has been changes in terms of what additionally needs to be reported. So you have to be very careful in terms of seeing that you are compliant, you are on the right side in terms of being able to kind of handle it. So this is the third one that I can say is going to be a challenge for 2025. Then, of course, I just want to mention some of the others that are important. So the labor force, I mean, I always talk of social security benefits, and a lot of people here today also are attending my courses or have attended or have worked with me. So the labor codes, as far as collapsing of the social security laws is concerned, is actually now going to become a reality. So there is going to be a huge change in the way we work on the HR front. Okay, on the HR front means that it will have implications in terms of finances, in terms of compliances. So unless we understand what the definition of wages are, what is kind of the social security contribution now going to be, uh, what happens to the traditional way of engaging contract workers instead of employees, for our core activities, which is now not going to be permitted. So those are very major sweeping changes. Okay, you have concepts where fixed term employees will now be entitled for gratuity instead of the 5-year period. So there are these changes that are happening, and we would suggest that compliances in social security is going to be an equally important compliance in terms of your 12AB and your 80G, because other law compliances which affect your objectives is also going to be one of the reasons for any punitive action by the income tax department. So I consider the introduction of the labor codes and the next 1 year in terms of transition as a major adjustment challenge for not-for-profits who are actually required, as it is the sector in terms of compliances on social security is poor. But let me tell you, everything is now getting integrated in terms of analytics, in terms of portals speaking to each other. Gone are the days when it will take years and years. It's very easy for the departments now to migrate information or to transfer information and then corroborate. So it's very equally important that we are honest and committed to in terms of whatever we are reporting. The next one is, of course, the direct income tax bill. The income tax, the ITB 2025 will not throw up challenges. I think it will help us in certain sense in bringing the entire code of taxation for not-for-profits at one place. However, there are certain changes that have been proposed in the draft income tax bill for not-for-profits, which are going to also then make changes for, we will not have anything like a 9A deemed application. We will have everything related to only accumulation in terms of corpus, breaking corpus, loans and borrowings, all those things. There are going to be quite a bit of change in terms of the way we work. So one has to also look at that. I want to emphasize the issue of Darpan, and why I want to say that is because the NGO Darpan is now the de facto KYC, as I call it, for the not-for-profit. So little importance has been given to the Darpan. It's basically a KYC for bank purposes, as you would all know, and therefore please ensure that all data related to the various fields on Darpan are up to date, so that there are no questions in terms of when it comes to taking facilities from any other for any other purpose, because everybody is now looking at this particular database and as the database about your organization, and it's available in public in a certain sense. It can be just exported to in a format, and that report will be available. So I suggest this is also not only a KYC but also opportunity to talk to the world. So this is something that I would want you to look at. Then there are 2-3 things that I want to say. One is, I mean, we have talked about the complex regulatory landscape. Now, the big preparedness for compliances should be in terms of in-house capacity. I do not recommend that you depend entirely on consultants. I'm not against consultants. I'm not saying that you do away with them, but please improve the capacity in-house of your organizations, of your people, so that they at least can understand, be aware of, understand the reason why these compliances are being talked about. This is very, very important. Now, there are PATTIC, for instance, is itself in-house, I mean, creating an in-house capacity for We do other initiatives, but then this capacity building on the institutional front is something where we need to be prepared. I think the last 4 5 years has given us enough time to see that we prepare ourselves. It's not just programs, it's our own institution which has to be strong enough. Only then programs will follow. So this is something that I look at as preparedness for 2025 and onwards, and this cannot be undermined. There's no big cost here. It's only a mind shift or a change of the mindset in terms of being able to learn more than what you probably need to do on your job. The last one is, of course, risk management. Now, never was the landscape, not just regulatory, every which way of this country, never was the landscape so challenging for the not-for-profits. And therefore, while for the for-profit, risk management is the first lesson, we have still not learned those lessons. Of course, a lot of organizations are now getting to know that risk management is important because it hits directly at the very base of our organization. So I would then say, consider risk management, consider identifying risk, consider a risk management process, a risk management policy, identify and address your risks so that the loss because of these risks and the internal controls that you put in place ensure that your organization is better able to kind of negotiate or navigate those kind of risks that I think were never never so intense as far as I understand over the last about 2 decades, and the intensity of these risks is only going to increase. So I thought I would just mention. I stop my screen. I thought that these are some areas that I would like you to work on in the next about couple of months. Look at these in a more focused manner, and then you cannot be addressing all of them at one time. So look at a plan. Probably that's what I say. Look at a plan. What are the ones that need to be addressed on priority? For instance, I say the 12AB and 12A and 80G is probably the topmost priority in terms of seeing whether you are on the right side in terms of getting that renewal or not. So with that, I hand it back to Shruti or maybe Nivedita for that matter. Sorry for that glitch. We will take questions once the other parts are over.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Shara. That was really helpful. And thank you for getting into covering so much, so many different topics. And I'm sure we would like to deep dive into many of these. Maybe we could do another session, but also Sharath is always available on PATTIC to address so many of our queries. And thank you so much for your time, Sharath. This was really helpful. I do understand that sometimes in certain parts of the conversation, I think Sharath's voice had dropped and the audio was a little low, but please don't worry, we'll be sending you a recording of this session and hopefully that will be useful. And Sharath, Shamir, Nivedita, there are some questions that are trickling into the chat. If you can please take some time to address those, that will be really helpful. And with that, I'd like to invite Nivedita from Pacta to take this conversation forward. Over to you, Nivedita.
Thanks, Shruti. Just brought my screen up. I hope that's visible and that my audio is better. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Great. All right. Thank you. Thanks, Shruti. Thanks, Shimir, for that fantastic introduction, as well as, the much required bit on general compliances. My name is Nivedita, and I lead an organization called Pacta. Pacta is based in Bangalore, and we are a law firm that is exclusively serving the not-for-profit ecosystem in India. Pacta also does a little bit of research in philanthropy. And essentially, how we support nonprofits is in three ways. We provide a lot of legal services, right from incorporation to closure, as well as contracts, compliances, etc. We do plenty of research as they apply to nonprofits, and then see how capacities of nonprofits can also be built towards making the law a little less, scary to understand, and a little more accessible. We really believe that knowledge empowers, and that legal knowledge should not stay within, lawyers' circles. And so we do many things to bring that knowledge and make it available to as many people as possible. And so we really love PATTIC, and we love that PATTIC gives us this platform to put up all the resources that we've created. And Shamir was right in saying that, we have all of this and we don't know sometimes what to do with it. And it's great that some of our newsletters, some of our primers, some of our legal compendiums are available on the PATTIC platform. I do invite you to take a look, and if there are other pain points that you think we should be writing primers and on, please do let us know, and we're happy to take requests. Just as a heads up, Pacta is thinking of doing some work around GST for nonprofits. Our DPDP primer for nonprofits will be up soon on PATTIC as well. And we're also thinking of doing some work around labor and labor compliances for nonprofits. So this is upcoming work. Do stay tuned with the PATTIC resource library to sort of follow some of this. Without further ado, I'll dive right into the agenda for today. I've been asked to mainly look at two parts. One is the data protection legislation, and the second is on the name boards and website related compliances as they apply to not-for-profit organizations. Some of the resources on both these topics are again available on PATTIC, so please do sort of, click onto that. I'll also link to it when I share the PPT with you. But really, let's go right into DPDP. So the data protection law, the digital, the data protection law was passed in 2023. And with that, there has been a lot of conversation generally about how citizen data needs to be protected. Just to clarify, this is not the first time that India has a law like this. Our previous law, which is called the Information Technology Act of 2000, read with the sensitive personal data rules, also had a lot of guidance on how organizations that collect and process personal data, needs to sort of store this, collect this, and a lot of guidance around that. But still, when the Digital Personal Data Protection Act became passed in 2023, India had a standalone law very similar to other countries, like, for instance, the California law, I mean, in the US as well as the European GDPR. And so India became one of those countries that had a federal level exclusive law dedicated to data privacy. And so some of these conversations have also percolated into the not-for-profit space, and absolutely right at that, because we do collect a lot of not-for-profit, a lot of personal data in our operations, and there are a bunch of compliances that one must keep in mind around this. I'll first talk a little bit about, what some of the key, concepts are, and then I'll also dive into some of the compliances under the DPDP, as well as some of the exclusions that the DPDP or the exemptions that the DPDP has given. Just want to flag that the Act has not yet been fully implemented, in the sense that while the Act has been passed, the rules that actually operationalize some of these laws, they have not been finalized. So they have been again drafted and shared for public comment, but these have not yet been implemented. And so we're still waiting to hear from the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology on when the Act would be effective from. There is news every month that it's going to be implemented from the next month onwards, but I think we're all just waiting and watching as of now. So back to key concepts, some of the jargon, you might hear these words a lot, and it helps to sort of know what these words mean. There are three words that you should remember. One is the data principle. The data principle is generally any person to whom the personal data belongs to. So if it's my data, I'm the data principal. The second concept is data fiduciary, and a data fiduciary is the person to whom the data is given. So this could be if, let's say, I'm a student studying in 5th grade in the Jeevan Bimanagar government school, and there is Akshay Patra coming in serving midday meal there, and I'm a data point in their data set. Then Akshay Patra would quickly become the data fiduciary, because they're collecting my data in terms of what my name is, what is my age, and maybe my home address, etc., as well as my date of birth. So because all of these personal data points are being collected by another entity, in this case it could be Akshay Patra, it could also be the state government, state of Karnataka, maybe several other non-profits. So whoever collects data from the data principal is called a data fiduciary. Now, the data fiduciary may keep the data themselves, or they may sort of pass this data onwards to other parties or other entities to process the data. So those entities are known as data processors. So sometimes Akshay Patra may collect the data, but because, let's say, it is running some sort of an impact assessment, it may be sharing this data with their impact assessment consultants. And so the impact assessment consultants may also become data processors, or they could also be data fiduciaries. Sometimes Akshay Patra may be using Microsoft and Microsoft Office tools to manage all the data that they collect from the students, right? So all of this data gets stored on the, let's say, the Microsoft Cloud, or any other Microsoft applications for managing the beneficiaries. And in that case, Microsoft would also become an intermediary or a data processor. So these are the three big terms that you'll hear a lot, both when we speak now as well as, in conversations. The next is really, what is personal data? Personal data is personal data. So any data that gives away information about the individual, then it would become personal data. So anything about the name of a person, his or her, or their date of birth, specific information on their biometrics, their blood group, their email address, their home address, all of this data becomes personal data, and it would need to be handled appropriately, and we would need to meet compliances under the Personal Data Protection Act. Now, the Personal Data Protection Act is very clear that it applies mainly to personal data, and it applies to data that is digitized. So if you collect data and then you digitize it, then digitize it as in, like I said, either you make computer records out of it, you feed it into an Excel sheet, or you collect data on pen and paper, but then you're actually, using it to maintain an email list. So all of these would become digitization processes. And then DPDP Act applies to data which is personally identifiable, so personal data as well as digital data, right? So these are the two qualifications for a data to get attracted under the compliances of the DPDP Act. Of course, as we know, nonprofits have several channels through which we collect data. So if we are collecting data through surveys, if we have any other beneficiary databases, any sort of meeting minutes, if there are workshops and we are maintaining attendance, if we send feedback forms, any sort of donation forms, all of these become sources through which the personal data, then the digital personal data begins to flow into not-for-profits. And any of these activities, therefore, will kick off the requirement to comply with the DPDP Act. I'll quickly talk to you about consent and notice. These are another two concepts that are really important, especially in the context of personal data. So usually when we take data from somebody, the rule of thumb across all legislations in the world that regulate personal data is that we take such data based on the consent of the data principle. So when we are collecting data from a person कि आपका नाम क्या है, हम ये data collect करेंगे जब
Nivedita, I think we have lost you. Maybe we'll just hold on for a minute or so while Nivedita rejoins. In the meantime, if you do have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. We also, while this webinar is primarily focused on the legal, on the finance and compliance bits, we also wanted to share a little bit of the legal requirements that are shaping up for the coming year as well, and which is why we really wanted Pacta to join in. Nivedita, are you back?
Yes, I'm back. I'm really sorry about what happened. I
No
lost
problem
internet.
at all.
Shruti, can you tell me
We are on implications of
where, sorry,
I think we need to move back one slide.
this one? This one was done?
Nivedita, you actually again frozen on my screen.
Can you hear me?
Can hear you. Yeah, we were on consent and notice, that slide.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, okay.
Cool. So, consent,
You'll have to move ahead, I think. Yeah.
are you able to see the consent slide?
Yeah, now we're there. Yep, that's
Okay,
right.
so I think there's a bit of a lag. All right. Okay, so consent is such that we collect data from anybody. ये है कि हम we collect the data only after asking if it is okay to collect their data. So that is consent. हम data लोगों से collect करेंगे जब उनका okay मिला है वो data collect करने के लिए. So there are a few rules for consent, right? The consent must be absolutely free. कि उनको कोई मतलब जबरदस्ती नहीं होनी चाहिए कि उन लोग अपने डेटा हमारे साथ डिस्क्लोज करें. दूसरा ये है कि जो भी हम कंसेंट लेंगे वो एक स्पेसिफिक पर्पस के लिए होगा. हम ऐसे नहीं कलेक्ट कर सकते हैं कंसेंट कि हम आपसे डेटा ले रहे हैं और कुछ भी करेंगे वो डेटा के साथ कि ब्लैंक पर्पस के लिए कि हम एक पेज में ब्लैंक पेज में किसी का सिग्नेचर लेते हैं. ऐसे नहीं होना चाहिए कि बट वी टेक द कंसेंट फॉर अ वेरी वेरी स्पेसिफिक पर्पस. We tell the people how are we going to use this data, with whom are we going to share this data, and how many days are we going to save this data, etc. Right? So these are only when consent fulfills these rules, it is said to be given freely. Right? And then the once correct the consent for taking the data, we're also providing our data principals with a notice that how can they delete this data if they want. If they want to raise a grievance, how can they raise a grievance? And if they want to file any sort of complaint or if they want to interact with the data principal, how can they then reach out and interact with the data principal, something pertaining to their data. So कभी-कभी ऐसे हो सकता है कि somebody has declared their blood group to be A positive, but they realize, no, my blood group is not A positive, it's O positive. So they want to reach back out and correct the data in your database. And so it is important to also provide notice as to with whom they should file such a request. So two parts to data collection. One is consent and one is notice, right? So what, assuming that these are some of the basic principles of data collection. And now let's spend the next, let's say, 2 to 3 minutes looking at what are the main implications for nonprofits that engage in data collection. So pehla ye hai, like we just discussed, that you should give explicit reasons why we are collecting this data, and the consent must be absolutely voluntary, and it should be informed consent. So this is the first sort of requirement. And we should also ensure that we inform the data principal as to what we are going to do with their data, कि हम किसके साथ share करने वाले हैं, are we going to process it for the purpose of research, are we going to share it with our donors, etc. तीसरी ये है कि we only collect such data which is absolutely necessary for our purpose. ऐसे नहीं है कि अच्छा ठीक है हम ये भी collect करेंगे, हम actually education कर रहे हैं, तो हम वो रेशन कार्ड भी collect कर देंगे, कास्ट का status भी collect कर देंगे, BPL status भी collect करेंगे. So that should not be the sort of lookout. The expectation from the DPDP Act is that you collect only that such personal data which is needed for your particular program or requirement. I just want to remind you here that there are certain exemptions, and we will talk about those exemptions in just a minute. But broadly, remember that consent and notice is important. And some of this, and in how you sort of process this data, must all be governed under a common data protection policy. तो हर एक non-profit के लिए एक मतलब data protection policy होनी चाहिए, which governs how you collect the data, how you use the data, how you collect the consent, where are you storing the data, with whom are you sharing the data, and such other specifics. All this should get covered under a data protection policy. And the DPDP also expects that nonprofits or all organizations that deal with personal data have some of these in place. The next requirement under the DPDP Act is that for every data fiduciary to appoint a data protection officer. So every nonprofit is expected to appoint a data protection officer from their organization, and this data protection officer's email address must be published along with taking the consent, right, so that the person knows whom they can reach out to in case they want to correct their data or sort of have any grievance about how their data is being used, etc. It's important for you to remember that अगर आप कोई service provider से
Sorry, Nivedita, I think we again lost you. Or is the issue on my end? Shamir, can you confirm?
No, it's frozen, Shruti.
Frozen.
Yeah, it's frozen. I think she's now rejoining.
Okay. Nivedita, are you back? What's an online webinar without some technical glitches?
Yeah, I'm really, really sorry.
No worries at all. It's completely understandable. Please continue. It's completely fine. Please continue.
Maybe if this technical glitch continues, Nivedita, probably you can see the presentation at your end and talk. Maybe sharing may take more bandwidth. I mean, just a thought.
Okay. Let's see, and maybe the third time's a charm, but if not, then I will take your advice, Suresh ji. I will not take too much time. It's just another 3 to 4 minutes anyway. All right, shall I proceed?
Yeah, please continue.
Okay, all right. So a data protection officer to be appointed. The next thing is to have data sharing agreements in place. One second. And ensure that if you have agreements, then the clause also, appropriately ensures that your partners who are going to collect your data are going to comply with the law, right? The third, another sort of internal measure you need to put into place is to ensure that your security measures, right? Access protocols, what are the firewalls you maintain in your information technology, infrastructure inside your organization. All of this must be reasonably safe. Now, the law has not given any specific standards or any specific guidance. It only says you need to follow reasonable security measures. So some amount of safeguards to ensure that you don't get hacked, your databases don't get breached, would be good enough to have things like two-party authentication, two-factor authentication, etc. would be useful. And in case there is a breach of data, you would need to intimate the data fiduciary, that is whose data has been leaked, as well as the data protection board within 72 hours. The last point is, now we are going to then also talk about verifiable parental consent of children and persons with disabilities, because if you are collecting data of children or collecting data of persons with disabilities, then we need to ensure that their guardian's consent is taken or the parent's consent is taken. And I'll talk to you about that right away. So if you're collecting data of a child, please ensure that that data is you have permission to collect that data from the child's parent. Second rule is, if you're collecting data from a person with disability and this person with disability has a legal guardian, then please ensure that the data gets collected with the consent of their legal guardian. So as far as children with disability and legal guardian, these are the rules. There are some exemptions. The exemption to healthcare professionals, and please note that healthcare professionals are not anybody who is providing any sort of healthcare services. There is a very specific definition under the law as to who is a healthcare professional. And if we are collecting data only to render healthcare services of a child, then the need to obtain the parental consent has been exempted under the law. So this is one point to remember. Similarly, there is an exemption for educational institution. There is no specific definition of educational institution. It's only a broad definition. Anybody who imparts education, including vocational education, is supposed to be an educational institution. And so any educational institution that collects data from children, and if their processing is very restricted only to the educational activities of the institution, or the safety of the child in the institution, or the collection is restricted only to tracking the behavioral data, or the processing is restricted only to tracking the safety of the child, then we are exempted from parental consent. So please remember that the exemptions are very, very narrow and very, very specific from obtaining a verifiable parental consent. So I think with this, I will share these slides, but broadly, these are the 4 or 5 principles that you should remember. Data security, ensure that you have good data processes in place. Second, and also have a policy. Second, have a good consent management. Please provide notice and take consent. 3, always be transparent about what is your data practices. 4, don't retain the data more than what is necessary. 5, always be accountable, which means appoint a data protection officer to ensure and drive the compliances under the DPDP Act. If you do need any additional support on complying with the DPDP Act, feel free to leave those suggestions in the chat, and we will see how we can respond to it. Before I move into the next, I mean, there's one question I want to ask you all. Do you think that the Shops and Commercial Establishments Act applies to CSOs? You can leave your responses in the chat. This question is mainly to to inform the next part of my presentation, which is on name board and website related compliances.
While the responses to the question are coming in, Nivedita, could I please request you to wrap up the next segment a little faster because we want to leave some time for Q&A as well. Thanks.
Sure. No, I will dive right in then, Shruti. And this should not take me more than a minute. Just wanted to leave some broad guidance in terms of name board. Name boards are governed under 3 laws, right? It could be the specific act that you are, your incorporation act, which is if you're a trust or a society or a Section 8 company. All these 3 laws, whether it is a trust law or it is the Societies Act or it is the Companies Act, they expect that the nonprofit displays their name in a conspicuous manner. The second one is that there is a Shops and Commercial Establishments Act, and there are certain very specific requirements under that act. For instance, organizations in in Karnataka are expected to display their name board with 60% of the text being displayed in Kannada, and for like if you think about 100% of the board, 60% of the coverage in that board should be in Kannada, and 40% is to be in English. Right. So like this, every state would have their respective practice. So please ensure that your name board requirement meets your localized requirements. Anytime the labor inspector wants to do a check, often that is the first point of the first barrier to entry, right? If that is not there, they'll start right from there. Even if it is a GST case or it is an income tax notice or an FCRA notice, they will start with why is your board not compliant. So please do pay attention to your localized requirement and ensure to comply with that. Secondly, as far as websites are concerned, if you are a trust or society, there are not too many specific details. However, if you are a Section 8 company, then under the Companies Act, you are expected to display your CIN, your corporate identification number, again very clearly in your website, also in all your letterheads, right? And if you also have the FCRA license, that is, you have the foreign contribution registration, you are receiving foreign contribution. Under the FCRA law, we are also expected to put up the income and expenditure statement and the receipt and payment account and balance sheet on the website every financial year. Please do note that often the first point of entry for income tax inquiries as well as foreign contribution inquiries start from the website of an organization, and some of these are really important to maintain, and that's the place from which these authorities are getting details about you. So please ensure to keep these up to date and compliant. That's about it. Thank you very, very much for this opportunity. Back to you, Shruti.
Thanks so much, Nivedita. Thank you. That was really very, very well detailed and at the same time very succinct. So thank you so much. Super helpful. And a big, big thank you to all our facilitators, Shamir from aikyam Fellows, Sharad from Saathi Development Services, and Nivedita from Pacta. It was really informative and very, very pointed. So thank you so much for keeping the information so brief and yet so impactful. I know there are some questions that are being asked in the chat, and our experts are already answering them. But if there are any folks who would like to ask any questions directly, if you would like to raise your hands virtually, I am happy to unmute you, and you could feel free to ask your question to Sharad, Shamir, or Nivedita directly. I should also mention that Suresh, our Chief Financial Officer at RNP, is also in the webinar. So if there are any questions for him as well, we'd be happy to take them. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask right away. I'll wait for you to raise your hands in case you want to ask any questions. Else, of course, please feel free to put them in the chat. We're answering them there as well. But just to say that all of the information that has been put together today is really to support all of our CSOs in our ecosystem in whichever capacity that we can. And this really is an appeal to everybody to um, join PATTIC and engage with us in different ways. And I think there is a question that has been asked by Jyoti. Sharad, would you like to answer it?
Yeah, so I was about to write the answer to Jyoti's question. Now, Jyoti has said what happens as far as compliances requirement for board of directors or trustees. Let me tell you that as far as the registration requirements or renewal requirements are concerned, then these people have to actually at the time of registration provide their details, their Aadhaar, PAN, and their addresses, their occupation. They also have to provide a pro forma AA in terms of a declaration which has to be notarized and also attached, and those details. Whenever a new board member is added, then also the pro forma AA as part of the FC6E requirement is also there. You will also have to file the details of these board members in your FC4, which is your annual return. So uh, there's a question in terms, there's a follow-on question which says any ongoing legal issues. Yes, so if there are any ongoing legal issues, probably it will be the right to look at whether to continue with that board member or not, because rather than the IBCI, CBI, or any other department of the MHA actually bringing that to your notice, and that can very be very prejudicial to the very request that you have made through that particular form. So it is better to continuously you might not be able to very explicitly, but you have to be very cautious in terms of seeing whether there are any proceedings, any kind of indictment against these board members, which you should be mindful of. I'm not saying you please take an undertaking or anything. It will actually put them off, because they are also supposed to provide this pro forma AA, which is an undertaking in a certain sense. So it's a very delicate matter in terms of legal, any kind of ongoing legal cases, but you have to be on your toes to identify and ascertain, because that such situations can have a very bad detrimental effect on the application that you have put. So that's my answer at this stage.
Okay, thank you so much, sir, for this great clarity, because it's very important to us also, because this is the mandatory field which we'll have to fill up to all fulfill our compliances. So that's why I need the clarity. How should we just reconsider this kind of things? Thank you so much.
Yeah, so Navedita has also clarified on, the foreigners being on the board. So you'll have to see if it's a foreigner, whether it satisfies the provisions in the act relating to foreigners being included, and those conditions are there. But however, for Indians and also essentially for OCIs and PIOs, the ministry is taking a lenient view, but one has to be very, very careful. So that's one aspect in relation to the residential status. But in terms of any particular action against them, or in any matter that they are there, one has to be very, very careful, proactive in terms of knowing that and taking suitable action. All right.
Another question has come in on the similarity or dissimilarity between trusts and foundations. Would you like to take it, Sharad or Nivedita, either of you?
So, this word foundation is not defined anywhere. There is nothing called foundation. However, the corporates, when they are looking at, uh, setting up their shop, as far as a charitable institution is concerned, they're calling it a foundation. So the foundation can be a Section 8 foundation. There's no specific, you know, uh, yes or no for using or not using the foundation word. But as Nivedita said, there are three forms of entities under which charitable work can be conducted in this country are society, trust, and a Section 8 company. Okay. So a Section 8 company, a trust, and a society is there. You might use the word foundation, but it really does not give any kind of differentiation in terms of law, although that's how people have been looking at. So, as far as the GST registration is concerned, I don't think we can answer that question, but I can say if you are covered under the exemption notification as a not-for-profit, uh, fulfilling the definition of charitable purpose, yes, well, you may be exempt. Otherwise, please look at the definition of taxable supply and also the thresholds as far as applicability of GST is concerned. Those are the three tests that need to be uh, no, applied. Now, as far as not-for-profits is concerned, there is no mandatory requirement for MSME.
Thank you. Thank you, Sharad. Any other questions? I see that a lot are being answered in the chat as well. Of course, I will be sending the presentation as well as the recording your way. So please rest assured that you will have this information with you. Any other question at all, please feel free to ask here, or if you're not comfortable asking here, you can also post them on PATTIC. Just wanted to say that if there are folks who are interested in engaging with us on the platform in any way, you can, or if you have any suggestions for what information you do need, if there are topics that are of concern to you and you really want them addressed, you can write to us at hello@pattic.org, and we would be happy to take these topics up. But like Shamir mentioned, there are lots of FAQs. There's a library which is filled with information. It's also being updated. And the best part about PATTIC is, of course, its language accessibility. Also, you are free to access the platform in whichever language you prefer. And I think that's a major win. So do feel free. And also, if you feel like circulating it in your teams or with other NGOs or other ecosystems that you're part of, please feel free to do that. This is not just for RNPs, grantees, or just for a few NGOs. This is really for the social sector at large. So I think with that, we'll wrap up with our session for today. I'd like to invite Mr. Suresh Punappa from the Rohini Nilkani Philanthropies to offer a vote of thanks, and then we'll wrap up. Suresh, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Shruti. Thank you so much. I think it's a time for all of us, particularly in the finance side and compliance side, that we are very busy implementing our annual plan currently and wrapping up with the previous year financials, accounts, audits, and adding to that the new, very important requirement of renewal of our registrations with income tax and all other related matters in terms of FCRA and other things. We thought it is very timely and important that we hold this webinar for us to really, remember and also recall the priorities that needs to be attended to quickly. Towards that, this webinar, I think all of you really, I think you find it very useful. In making of this, I should definitely start thanking Shamir, Pooja from aikyam Fellows, who are actually put in phenomenal effort and thoughts in terms of designing a platform to really make it seamless and user-friendly for all the users here in this space. And so I thank you, Shamir, for very insightful, session, helping us to understand various functionalities and how that needs to be navigated and the various features that are available for all the participants to log in and access those informations. Thank you, Shamir, Pooja, and the team aikyam Paris for this. And most importantly, any of these kind of foundations becomes live when you really have the content and the information available, which are crucial here, and particularly in the time when regulatory frameworks or the compliance requirements are rapidly changing and so dynamic. Every day we tend to see that there are changes happening on various laws and regulations that are applicable to NGOs. It's important that's very user friendly, that's practically oriented content and information comes on this learning platform. so that it answers the practically important questions on a day-to-day basis for the users with the compatibility of the languages they're comfortable in. So towards this, I really thank Saathi Development Services, Sharada and team to helping us with all the contents which are very, very useful, very comprehensive, and thoughtfully designed to really make use. Make sure that all the specific question and important questions are actually covered in the topics that are put out there as part of the library or the interactive forum, or the videos that are actually captured as part of the Knowledge Hub. So thank you, Sharad, and thank you very much for that. And adding to that, as we know, as we navigate through all these things, we also now encountering new requirements for the development, sir. Particularly coming now, the new thing is about the legal aspects of applicable to the NGOs. Thanks, Nivedita from Pacta, really helping us to understand what are the new things coming up for us, in addition to the various other things, challenges that we are actually currently working on. It's very useful to really understand those and prepare ourselves really, put things in place well in advance to really comply with those requirements as we progress further. And thanks so much, Nivedita, for that. And most critical and important thing is that, as I told you, started telling that it's the time really all of us are really busy, and all of you really took your time out today. And in large numbers participated in this webinar. I mean, it's so encouraging for us, and also shows that it's so good to have people together, because networks and learning together is actually the key in the sector, and sharing and learning is something that takes things forward. And the tools like PATTIC forum, which is really enhanced in a manner in which that has been designed, will really help us to share this information seamlessly, go back to the information, refer to certain things as and when we want. So I request all of you, and thank you very much for taking your time and actively participating in here. And thanks for your questions. And some of it we would have answered here, but I will make sure that and request you to really send out your questions through PATTIC forum. We will try to answer this as quickly as possible. And as some of the key aspects like income tax renewals, 1280 which are more critical and time sensitive currently, please feel free to exchange your learnings and things like this, so the others can learn and prepare themselves as well. Thank you very much for your time. And most importantly, at the end, overall, making these kind of things coming together with the communications going out to everyone in time, sending out reminders. I thank Shruti for holding this together really well, and making sure that everyone gets this information in the right time, and design this whole, different topics to be covered critically is well done. Thank you, Shruti. Thank you very much. And thanks, everyone. And I hope I have not left out anyone here, but everybody's efforts are recognized and appreciated. Have a good day, and wish you all the very best as we progress in the year and all the requirements that is coming up. And it's a collaborative effort, and all of us appreciate and value each of your sharing and communications and participation in the forums. With that, Shruti, I hand it over to conclude the thing with thanks everyone really, and appreciate your participation. Have a good day.
Thank you so much, Suresh. Really appreciate the kind words. And I mean, you are the one who really began this entire initiative. So we all owe a lot
Totally.
to you.
Suresh will be like, come here, we have to do something. He used to literally out. We have to do it. So all his meetings, Suresh will start by saying, we have to definitely do something, right? So he's been thanks for reminding that, Shruti.
So thank you. Thank you,
Thank you,
everybody.
Suresh.
Thank you for
Thank you,
joining
everyone.
us. Thanks to everybody. And please have a great rest of the week ahead. We'll be sending you all these resources on email. I have also dropped some email IDs in the chat. If you're interested in writing to us, please write to us at hello@pattic.org. There's a discussion forum. You can post your questions directly. If you want to write to us personally, you already have all of our email IDs. So please have a great rest of the week and all the best for everything coming ahead. And we're here to support you in whichever capacity we can. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Shruti.
Thanks, Sharad. Thanks,
Thanks,
Shruti.